A phenomenon spread across North America and Europe last year as Pink Floyd launched their first tour of the 90s. Over 7 months, the band performed 110 shows in 77 cities to the delirium of over 3.5 million fans. State-of-the-art concerts have been redefined once again because of Pink Floyd's Division Bell tour. Another treat that the band delivered on some of the dates was the performance of Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety for the first time in more than 20 years. And now, on June 6th of 1995, Pink Floyd releases Pulse, a double compact disc and cassette documenting the experience of that record-breaking tour. Hi, I'm Dan Neer. David Gilmour and Nick Mason will join me in just a minute from London for the world premiere of Pink Floyd's Pulse on the Album Network. Hello, I'm Dan Neer, and you've tuned into the world premiere of Pink Floyd's Pulse CD. With me in our London studios, and looking actually quite healthy and semi-rested, is David Gilmour and Nick Mason. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
The first question I want to ask is, were you more confident going into the Division Bell tour than when you went into Momentary Lapse of Reason?
Fair to say that yes, we were.
And why?
Well, it was the beginning of, making the Momentary Lapse of Reason album and putting that whole tour together. We had no idea of what was going to happen. We didn't know how popularly we would be received, or for the record or for the tour. Going out without Roger was an unknown quantity, new musicians, hundreds of reasons why we would feel insecure and slightly nervous at that time. Having put all that in the past and put together what I think is probably a better album with, a much more solid Pink Floyd sort of album with the Division Bell, I would say. We were much happier with everything and much more confident going into it.
Now, while fans that come and see the shows become immersed in the music, the special effects, I'm sure a lot of them don't even think about the effort and the expense that goes into creating and delivering them. Could you give us
I hope not.
Pardon me?
That's not their problem.
Yeah, but could you just give us an idea of how long it takes to get Pink Floyd on the road, like say from the time of let's go in and make an album to the time of the first performance, and maybe even just some of the expense that is laid out before even one note is played?
Well, I think it probably took about 9 months of preparation, which is possibly a little longer than usual, and there are advantages in that. I think the longer you have, probably you can actually reduce the expense because you can spend more time designing and developing rather than building and then changing.
And then people don't hold your arm up behind your back and say, right, it's last minute, this is what it's going to cost.
Yeah,
that's happened to you in the past, I think.
Regularly.
Oh, it's Pink Floyd, that'll be an extra.
Yeah. We have first meetings on it when we're making the album, and then it doesn't involve us sort of for a great many hours every day or anything. We give people a brief and then they go off and come back a month later with drawings and ideas, and we have another meeting and say yes or no to things, and it sort of builds up momentum over the several months until we finally arrive in some huge aircraft hangar somewhere and try and tie all the bits together.
I think we started talking in sort of June, July of 93 and doing drawings and models. I think we actually did test builds of stage in October, November, not of stage, of the actual structure. And then by February, March, we were sort of complete and rehearsing in March.
So it is a long haul, and I guess you have to actually steel yourself and get yourself prepared when you conceive of, I'm going to do a record, for a very long process.
Yeah, well, this one was 2 years, really, which is much shorter than the Momentary Lapse of Reason one, which really started in 86 and carried on virtually into 90. So that's about...
You're getting better at it then, huh?
I haven't seen it like that, but that's a very interesting concept.
Now, one of the things that you did on this tour was you changed songs that you did from night to night. Had the band ever done this before, really? Recently, especially?
Well, less so on the Momentary Lapse of Reason, for, all the reasons
previously aforementioned.
Yes, I mean, we were more nervous. We were also more tied into computer type stuff, both on the music on the stage and out front with the lighting and effects things, which this time we managed to reduce a little bit so that it was a bit more just down to the people playing. So we were not totally spontaneous, but we could decide an hour before a show what songs we were going to do in what running order and chop and change it around a little bit, and then people would have to rush off and change one or two programs and computers around a little bit in terms of order, but otherwise it was fairly simple.
Yeah, so it made it, I guess, more interesting for you as performers, and maybe more exciting for people in the crew.
I think it serves two purposes. Yes, it sustains interest on stage, particularly with the other musicians who then have to work just a little bit harder to do some of these other songs. And for an audience who quite often are coming to more than one show, I think it's quite important. Just so that they get some variation, and perhaps that they see that we can manage some changes in the proceedings.
Also, having already read in some in-the-know publication exactly what we were going to do that night, it's nice to then not do it.
The very first song that we want to play from Pulse, which, by the way, is in stores June 6th, you should be aware of that, is a song that sometimes opened the shows, Astronomy Donomy. Now, that's Latin for strap in, because this show is pretty far out there, right? Is that literal translation?
It's Latin for what?
Strap in, because this show is pretty far out there.
It's maybe something from Ben-Hur, strap in, but...
That's a new one on me.
Yeah. We'll have to get a Latin scholar in, but I'm afraid to say I doubt that strap in, because it's pretty far out, is not a sort of piece of Latin parlance, but you never know.
Why did you choose to go this far back in the band's history? This is actually from the very first album, the very first song on it, and choose to play this song.
Last time, again, it goes back to the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour, and we actually did delve through everything that we thought we could ever possibly want to do, and we put together a set of all the songs that we wanted to play, and this time we delved again because we thought we don't want to do the same show, exactly the same set. We wanted to chop and change around, and we also wanted to change each night a little bit, so we needed a few extra things, and also we thought it'd be good fun to have an entire retrospective from the very earliest days, 1967, right through to now. So, and it was jolly good fun to do again after all these years. Slightly odd lyrics, but...
Well, I think you definitely caught a lot of fans' attention and kind of gave them quite a thrill. So let's take a listen to this now from the Pulse CD. It's the world premiere of Pink Floyd's latest. This is Astronomy Donomy.
Pluto was discovered in 1947.
From the new double live CD of Pink Floyd's, it is called Pulse. That is Astronomy Donomy. In London with Nick Mason and Dave Gilmore, I am Dan Neer, and right now...
Domine.
Did I say
Astronomy Domine?
Oh, Domine. Thank you very much for...
I know you're keen to work on your Latin. So.
And it's good having some professors here. Now, courtesy of 1-800-COLLECTED, is time that we get a lucky contest winner on the telephone with you. Okay, ready to take a phone call from the States?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
This is Steve from Richmond Heights, Ohio, who's listening on WNCX. Steve, you're on the air with David Gilmour and Nick Mason.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Hello.
Listen, I want to tell you guys that I think you're the best, and you're definitely still first in space.
Thank you for that.
What I wanted to ask you was, are you guys going to put out a video for your next tour, or I mean, rather this tour?
Yeah, the video is coming out, I guess, about the same time as the CD. So there will be a video. It's of the night that we transmitted already on television back whenever it was, October, I guess, was on pay-per-view. And that should be coming out. It's not the same performances that are on the album, which are taken from 20 shows around Europe and England. It's all from the one show that we transmitted, which I guess was about the 20th of October from Earl's Court.
I saw that. It's a remarkable capturing of the Pink Floyd experience, which I know has been quite a difficult thing to capture in the past. I guess a lot of the difficulty being that with the varying degrees of lighting, the way it goes from intensely bright to like next to nothing, a lens capturing that. Was there some advance in technology that permitted you guys to?
I think there was an advance in getting a decent person who knew how to do it, actually, to be honest with you. We got David Mallet in, who's directed many pop shows, and he's a consummate professional. He did an extremely good job for us. I think once or twice we've attempted things in a rather haphazard way in the past, which haven't entirely come off.
I think the other thing is there was an advance in the budget, because we ran 20 cameras all night, whereas I think anything we've tried in the past with I think 9 cameras on Cemetery Labs. So double the cameras does help. You get an awful lot more footage to choose from.
And that's exciting news to hear that is coming up, because I happened to watch it in preparation for this a couple of times, and it's really great to be commended on that. Steve, thanks for that call. And we'd like to move on now, and another lucky contest winner that's going to get to talk to Dave and Nick is James in Topeka, Kansas, listening on KMKF. James, you are on the air with David Gilmour and Nick Mason.
Thank you, Dan. Hi, Dave. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
How are you guys?
We're very well. Nick, you too?
Oh, yes, I'm fine, thanks.
Nick's well too.
James, what is
I thought you'd answered for both of us there.
James, what's your question?
My question to David and Nick would be, on your 1994 Division Bell United States tour, I was wondering if there was just one performance or if there was several performances that were most memorable for you.
The one I guess I would remember the best was in Detroit, where we did our first attempt at doing Dark Side of the Moon for sort of 19 years, I guess it was, which was fairly emotionally charged, and we all came off at the end thinking, God, that was really terrific. And I think that would be my favourite memory of it.
Yeah, I think it'd be mine too, and I think, in fact, it would be the same for all the band and all the musicians on stage.
All right, James, I thank you for your question, and we're going to revisit that, because on this Pulse CD, you do include the entire live performance of Dark Side of the Moon. We want to get to that in a minute, but the song that we do want to get to is off the Division Bell, actually, and it is called What Do You Want From Me? Live on the Pulse CD. This is Pink Floyd. That's Pink Floyd with What Do You Want From Me from the double live CD called Pulse. It'll be in your stores on June 6th. I'm in London with Dave Gilmour and Nick Mason of Pink Floyd. We have to talk about this amazing package that Pulse comes in. If you do go into your record stores and look for it on Tuesday, you're not going to have a problem finding it. It's the only CD that's blinking at you or pulsing at you. This is obviously one of the most unique packages ever done. Where did the idea come from?
I think it was an idea of Storm's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Storm was very keen to actually devise a package that had some live element to it.
You're talking of Storm Thorgerson.
I'm talking of Storm Thorgerson.
Who else?
Rather than Storm...
The god of...
Storm Janacek or Storm Morrison. Anyway.
Storm a-coming.
Where were we? So Storm Thorgerson came up with this idea because he was very keen that the packaging should reflect the fact that it was a live album. The package should have some life of its own. And quite a lot of time was spent sort of trying to work out how it could be done, and convincing the record company as well that this was a really, really good idea and not extremely difficult, which of course it was.
But that's no matter.
And there we jolly well were.
Oh, and not only that, I mean, of course, with the pulsing red light, but the insert, and I wouldn't even call it an insert, it's literally a book.
Yeah. I think there are still lots of different ways of packaging CDs. I think the jewel box is quite nice in its own way, but there's probably opportunities for all sorts of different ways of doing these things. And I think everyone misses slightly the record sleeve, the original vinyl record sleeve, with the size and it's the opportunity to put in quite a lot of artwork. And so a book is even small book, but it's a nice way of giving some pictures and doing some of the things that used to happen with a record sleeve.
And as you alluded to, these pictures are just high-quality pictures. I mean, these are great pictures of the band in concert. For those that were there, it'll certainly be a good souvenir and a reminder, and for those that weren't, it'll be an indication of what you missed. All right. Welcome back to London. I'm Dan Neer with Dave Gilmour and Nick Mason to world premiere the new Pink Floyd double live CD called Pulse. Now, we are also awarding lucky contest winners from across the United States with the ability to call in and talk to Nick and Dave, and it's courtesy of 1-800-COLLECT. We have on the phone right now Mark in Hawaii, who listens at KAOI. Go ahead, Mark. You're on the air with Nick Mason and David Gilmour.
Good day, gentlemen. How you doing?
Hi, Mark.
Fine, thanks.
Good. This is quite exciting. I was wondering what prompted your decision to replay Dark Side of the Moon again?
We were already playing so much of it. We were playing about half of it on the last tour, and on this tour we had added Breathe and a couple of other bits and pieces. And there was so little new to learn that we thought we'd do it, and we thought it would be an easy thing to do, but turned out it took about 2.5 months of tracking down all the bits of quad tape, old bits of film, remaking one or two that were just too old and out of date before we could actually put it together. So it took us till from, I don't know, when we thought about it originally, I guess in April, and but we were into July before we actually got to performing it. So, but basically it was because we were doing so much of it and we wanted to have a change and do some new, slightly different shows. That's it, really.
Thank you, Mark. When did you actually rehearse Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety? Because you weren't doing it earlier in the tour.
We did it at soundcheck in the afternoons, 4 o'clock every afternoon when we got an opportunity. We'd go to the place we were playing, the stadiums, and we'd run through one or two bits because we couldn't do the whole thing. They were always screaming at us that they wanted to open the doors and stuff. So basically we had to learn Any Colour You Like, Brain Damage and Eclipse, and run through those as a package a few times. And the technical guys had to do a fair bit more daytime rehearsing with all the bits of film and tape and stuff. And then we had to find a place where we were actually indoors because it was already getting into summer, and they had to actually run, well, it wasn't indoors, but they had to run things at night because that was the only time they could get any darkness so they could see the bits of film and actually rehearse. So that we'd be finishing a show at 11 or sometime after 11 at night, and then the technical guys and Mark Brickman, our lighting director, would have dummies set up on stage that looked like us and play tapes of it all and run stuff through the night.
So when did the band actually rehearse going from start to finish? Because you said you just rehearsed different pieces.
I don't think we did. Did we?
No?
Well, I think we must have had sort of a couple of real run-throughs. We probably did one in Detroit the afternoon before,
I guess.
Mm-hmm. And so you alluded to before that after that performance in Detroit, it was an emotional thing. Kind of tell me some of the things that were running through your mind, some of the feelings you were having after that.
You play the songs from Dark Side of the Moon, and they're songs, and they're great in their own right. When you finally tag them all back together in the correct order, it takes on, each song as you're playing it takes on a whole new meaning, and it was definitely an emotional moment when we got to the end of it that first night. It was a real thrill.
It's sort of, well, the record was constructed in that way, but it does really work as a piece, and one just tends to forget that because you don't tend to listen to your own records that often anyway. And so when you do stick it all back together and play it through, it is it's unusual.
Did you actually go back and listen to the CD to...
Yes, we did. We probably rehearsed for a while and then went back and reviewed the CD. And it was very interesting.
We actually had to get together in a hotel room and get all the musicians and play it all the way through after we'd done one or two rehearsals of bits and pieces and given the songs that we were already doing, to remind them or show them and to remind ourselves how far we had got away from some of the bits and the bits we should be. The trouble is one tends to overcomplicate things, and listening to the record, one realised that in some cases we were overcomplicating stuff, and we should strip a few bits away and make it simpler, and it works better.
It certainly worked quite well when it was put down and through the years. I mean, what was it, 700 weeks on the charts? Well, let's lower the lights. Right now, try to imagine a monitor of our heartbeat on a giant circular screen as we open up the Dark Side of the Moon as heard on the brand new Pulse CD from Pink Floyd. Live performance of Speak to Me, Breathe, and you're going to find that on the new Pink Floyd CD Pulse. It's in your stores June the 6th. You're going to get to hear more of it, along with more commentary from Nick Mason and David Gilmour, when Album Network's world premiere continues. For tuning into the world premiere of Pink Floyd's Pulse CD in London with David Gilmour and Nick Mason, I am Dan Neer. Another lucky Pink Floyd fan has a question for you two, and this is courtesy of 1-800-COLLECT. We have Teresa in Michigan, listening on WKLT. Teresa's from Traverse City. Go ahead, Teresa. You are talking on the telephone with Nick and Dave.
Hi, Nick. Hi, Dave.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, this is like the dream of a lifetime to ever talk to you, and I'm one of your biggest fans, I know. My question is, though, how old were you when you started your band, and did you think you'd still be playing at this time?
Well, I think we started this band. It's always difficult to say when a band really starts, but because Pink Floyd went professional in 1967. And how old was I in 1967? Well, I'm 51 now, so this is your maths test, if you can work that one out. And Dave joined 1 year later.
I was 21 when I joined. I was 2 months before my 22nd birthday.
Did we give you a present, Dave? I can never remember.
I greatly doubt it. I think the present you gave me was to take part in your tax bills.
Which was a great pleasure.
Which reminds me, it must be your birthday again soon, and I've got some tax bills for you this time.
Teresa, thank you for that phone call there. Dave, you've said in the past that you weren't as happy with the album Dark Side of the Moon as you were with Wish You Were Here. Now, why is that? What did that refer to?
I don't know about not as happy with it. I was slightly concerned at the time that the direction, that the strength of the lyrics was coming right to the forefront at that time. And I thought at the time that there were one or two moments in that where we had let the lyrics overshadow the music, or we had, if you like, we had not created a sufficiently strong musical background, or we hadn't explored some of the musical backgrounds enough, should we say. And in some ways I felt that some of our strengths were being lost. Seems rather stupid to say it, really, because there's not many that would agree. And but anyway, I felt that. I still feel to a certain extent that Wish You Were Here has a greater balance to it of between music and lyric.
I think they're both pretty decent works.
I seems rather, yes.
Come on, you can be more challenging than that. You can take sides here.
I actually
upset someone today.
I'm sorry. If I could upset somebody, I guess I'd take the opportunity. But at the moment, don't have a reason. When you were performing it from start to finish, did you gain new insights or appreciation for the piece? I think you've sort of said yes.
I don't know about new, but certainly maybe forgotten ones. Yeah.
Like, what was something that you had forgotten that...
No, just I can't pin down what one had forgotten in specific terms. One had just forgotten what it felt like to perform the whole thing as a piece and for it to all take on its linear meaning as a piece.
You actually only performed the piece in its entirety in a couple of cities in the United States. A bunch of people got to see that pay-per-view that we were talking about from Earl's Court. And I'm sure a lot of people were struck by the films again in that performance. These were the original ones from 1972?
Not all of them. One or two were changed. What was it?
We remade the films once in about 1974, I think, the Peter Maddock sort of versions. We used some original pieces from 73, some from 74, and then the pieces we particularly had to remake or did remake tended to be, first of all, brain damage, which has a number of politicians. And we found that actually in 22 odd years, some of the politicians simply were no longer recognizable to a younger audience and wouldn't make much sense in this day and age. So there were some changes made there specifically, and there was some new technology on Great Gig, Great Gig, where we had some new film of the sort of waves and water.
More or less the same stuff, filmed by the same guy, inside the curl of a surf wave, was recreated. And did we? What was it on Time? Did we use the original of Time, or did we use some of the new one on Time? I think we used the original in the end. I can't honestly remember.
I particularly
we argued about various aspects of it. When we were doing Time on the shows that we weren't doing the whole of Dark Side of the Moon, we were using a new piece of film which was introduced by the first few seconds of the original piece of animated footage done in '73 by Ian Eames. But my memory's failing me. I can't actually remember which one we used on the live shows on the whole way through.
I particularly enjoyed the new images, especially of our president playing the saxophone. That was very well done.
I liked him very much, and I liked Imelda Marcos joining in the singing as well.
That was great. Well, let us get to the last 16 minutes of Dark Side of the Moon. It's Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, Eclipse, as heard on the brand new Pink Floyd Pulse CD. You're listening to the Album Network's world premiere broadcast. And once again, another lucky winner, courtesy of 1-800-COLLECT, is on the telephone for Nick Mason, Dave Gilmore. Tom is in Burbank listening on KLSX. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm
very
fine.
good. Very good. Just wanted to tell you I'm a really big fan of yours and of both Pink Floyd and solo efforts. And I had a couple questions for you. One was, how do you like touring with all your supporting musicians as opposed to the original four of Pink Floyd?
Can't remember when it was an original four, to be honest with you, because by 1973, with Dark Side of the Moon originally, we had 3 backing singers out with us and a saxophone player, Dick Parry, who we took again this time, so we were already up to 8 by 73. 75 also, we had Dick Parry. I think we added a second guitar player, Snowy White, for the Animals tour, and the backing singers, and Dick Parry. And from the Wall, we had 4 extra musicians and 4 extra singers. We were up to a dozen for those shows. So, I, to be honest with you, I really can't remember what it was like going out with just the 4 of us.
But I would say...
I have nightmares about it sometimes.
I would say when we are looking for those extra musicians, we not only look for musical ability, but touring compatibility. The last thing you need is any more maniacs. We've got 4 of those, 3 of those now.
Okay, Tom, you had another question.
Yeah, I did. Also, would both of you, if you ever had the opportunity again, race in the La Carrera Panamericana race? Looks like you had a lot of fun. Well, one of you had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun. I know for sure that our manager won't do it again, who was Dave's passenger when Dave took the day.
I broke a leg. Not mine, someone else's.
So you actually had a crash in that. That was kind of frightening, wasn't it?
It's very unusual, actually, to get the broken leg for the manager rather than the artist.
Yes,
it took an awful lot of skill.
It did take a lot of skill, but as I'm a trained pilot, it all came off rather swingingly in the end. And I greatly doubt if I shall do it again. Nick, are you going to do that again? It was terrific fun driving through Mexico,
yeah,
we said.
I'd consider doing it again. It is fun, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tom, for your questions. The next song that we want a world premiere here from Pulse is Wish You Were Here. Now, how did you respond, David, to the fact that people sang along with you quite loudly as you were performing this song?
It's great. I mean, on occasions one can just stop and let them get on with it. I think the Wish You Were Here on the album was actually recorded in Italy, where they do sing very, very loudly and very, very accurately, or every syllable of every word, and I greatly doubt if most of them understand a word that they're talking about and singing about. But it is terrific. It gives you a huge lift.
Yeah, I'll bet it does. Well, let's take a listen to this. This is Pink Floyd along with the audience in Italy, we believe, singing Wish You Were Here from the new Pulse CD. We want to get to a song from Pulse in its live form that originally was on the Division Bell, High Hopes. Now, is this song partly an examination, much like the period in Wish You Were Here, where you were looking at your motivations behind what you were doing and, what happened? Is that?
That's kind of a song about my childhood and the things you gain and the things you think you might have lost.
It's truly a Pink Floyd song, and you've also chosen this piece to make a film to, a new film to. How do you decide when you're going to do a film, or
It's all kind of arbitrary, I think we were thinking about which songs would go in which half of the show and things like that, because in some places we weren't going to be able to show films in the first half because we were still running in daylight by that time of year. And this is one of the ones we just chose. Storm thought that it would be a good one to do a film to. And it's partly the ones that speak to you about wanting to have a film made about them that do get that.
Nick, you've said that this is your favorite from the Division Bell CD. Why is that?
Well, probably because I like it the best.
Thank you for that deep insight.
Moving right along.
Is there?
I think I suppose it embodies just all the qualities that I particularly like in a Pink Floyd track. I like the lyric content, but I also like the slightly unusual start-up and the fact that the bell tone takes the rhythm and sets it, and then you're surprised when it turns around as the song starts.
Well,
it just has that a bit of mystery as well as a great song.
It does. It has, I guess, what we'd call atmosphere to it too. Let's begin the tolling of the Division Bell and play High Hopes. Dave, can you reach over? There's a piano in the room there. Maybe Dave could.
Hang on.
All right, he's going to take off his headphones and start High Hopes for us live from London.
I would just like to say to y'all, I have been many years, long-time listener. Your music is just one in a million. It's extraordinary, and y'all put y'all's heart and soul into it, and I would like y'all to just keep doing what you're doing and don't stop. I mean, please.
Okay, Janice, do you have a question?
Sure, yeah, I did have one question. I'm an accountant and a real computer, buzz, and I would like to know if y'all have ever thought about having a online network, like an internet where you can contact and get information on, upcoming events or history on, the band and, you guys individually. It's kind of like Prodigy.
Well, we have thought about it a bit, but there are quite a lot of sort of bulletin boards which cover quite a lot of history with fans sort of swapping notes and information. I think probably we've never really been very enthusiastic to sort of run clubs or cover that sort of area ourselves. I think it's probably one of those things that's better left to the people who are really interested in it.
Okay, Janice, thank you.
I'm not on the net myself yet. Are you on the net, Nick?
I'm not in England. I'm on America Online in America.
I keep meaning to, but I keep using the phone instead.
Thank you, Janice, for calling. Would you ever consider doing one of those, like, online where people, sessions where people wrote and or typed in questions or something and you guys answered them?
Yeah, I think so. I'm really waiting for the technology to improve slightly because my typing's so slow. Really, it'll be easier when there's voice recognition, and instead of having to type it all out, the thing sort of writes it out for you.
All right.
And then turns it back into your voice at the other end, just like a telephone or a radio.
Okay.
Brilliant, Professor.
The next song that I want to play has become a signature song and a showstopper for Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb. David, you wrote the music for that one. How did this originate? Was this a case of Roger bringing you some words and asking you for some music, or did you bring the music? Or how did that go about?
I wrote the music for it when I was doing my first solo album, I think, in south of France in 1978, I guess it was. And I brought it into the Wall project where Bob Ezrin kind of forced it onto Roger and said, "This is good, we've got to have it in the thing." And Roger grumpily went off and wrote some words to it, and we put it all together. And I think, well, certainly I became rather fond of it, along with a few other people. I hope Roger did too.
I think so. The guitar solo in this has become quite legendary, actually. It seems to really have an intensity and an emotional power that does grab an audience. It makes them hang on to it. Do you have any clue as to like where that power of that solo comes from?
I think that the solo is always is put into its perspective by the words and the rest of the music that are there together with it. So I think because it's a powerful song, a powerful lyric, and a very emotive lyric, it helps to make the solo and the solo passage have a greater power than it might otherwise have had.
Okay. Well, from one of the most creative, fascinating works, The Wall, this is Comfortably Numb, and you can hear this on the brand new live Pink Floyd album called Pulse. And it's time to get another lucky Pink Floyd fan on the phone from the States, courtesy of 1-800-COLLECT right now. This is Wayne, who is listening to WROQ in South Carolina. Wayne, you're on the telephone with Dave and Nick.
Dave, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Oh, doing just wonderful. Actually, I'm from North Carolina.
Right.
Big difference.
Listen, I want to just tell you that your performance last year that I attended in South Carolina, which was at Clemson University, Death Valley, was just stunning.
Thank you.
Just stunning, and it was just as memorable as the first time I saw you fellows play in Chicago, Illinois in the early 70s, when I believe you shared the stage with Procol Harum. Is that right?
Don't remember, actually. Yeah, I don't think so. I agree. Yeah. I don't think we did, not in the 70s.
David, my question to you is, when Roger willfully left the band some years ago, the burden of songwriting and the creation of your clear, unique, dimensional sound of the band was left on your shoulders. How are you dealing with this today, and what sources are you drawing from to be creative?
God, that's a difficult question. One does what one can. The hardest part of all of it has been writing lyrics that stand up to the quality of what went before, and with Roger, because he certainly was one of the best. Musically, I think it's not that difficult or not that unusual, as myself and Rick sort of did write an awful lot of the music that went on before. Right now, I've had to, on the last album and on this album, elicit some help from various people with some of the lyric writing, but it mostly still stems from me. But we do what we can. I do my best. I don't know. I hope it stands up to the scrutiny.
Thank you, Wayne, for the telephone call. You've actually gotten a new songwriting partner and a partner in life. This is your wife that actually helped with some of the Division Bell lyric, yes?
She did, yes.
And you kind of, I guess, basically brought the ideas and said, what do you think? Is that how it goes?
That's how it started, yes. She didn't want to know about helping at first. She said, this is your job, not mine. And but gradually fell into line as I bossed her about it.
Showed her the checkbook.
She's not tuned in, is she? Oh, okay. As we move through this Pulse CD, one of the things that you can't help but notice is the great sonic quality. This wasn't recorded digitally. I mean, when people say sonic quality now, they think digital and computers and all sorts of stuff. Tell us why this record sounds as good as it does.
Well, I think the technology in analog tape machines has been moving on as well as digital technology has, and I think really that it's much more down to people than it is down to bits of equipment. And having James Guthrie back on board, who was our engineer on the wall, amongst other things, was a significant step on this particular occasion. He's got a sort of manic dedication to making certain that everything is done the best possible way it can be. I mean, to what even to me at times seems like a ludicrous degree, but if the result is there in the end, then so be it.
It also, there was this thing there where it says it was mixed in Q sound. Does that mean anything? I mean, what would that mean to the layperson?
Q sound is a type of effect that has been developed by company Q Sound that has what is, I guess, a phase shifting type thing, which gives an audio illusion whereby the sound coming out of your stereo speakers gets to a much wider position than your stereo speakers. Normally, if you're listening at home on your stereo, the sound never gets wider than those two speakers wherever they happen to be in front of you. But with this, there are certain sound effects and certain sounds, bits of music, that come out at 180 degrees to the side of your head if you've got a reasonable system. And it's one of the few methods that you can use that helps to create a live and a quadraphonic-ish experience on an ordinary home system.
Yeah, I think it's quite successful, and it really sounds great.
There are moments when it really, really works.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
Yeah. We want to move to another song on Pulse, and I want to play Hey You. Now, I guess originally this song is about the isolation of an artist that he feels from his audience, and I was wondering that after this tour, how do you feel about your relationship with your audience?
I don't. It has to be said, it has to be repeated, I suppose, that this is Roger's feeling of alienation from his audience is not one that necessarily that I or Nick, I think, particularly feel that we share. And we saw the wall as a very powerful statement, a very good vision, but not necessarily the basic idea behind that part of it, of the alienation between the artist and his audience, was necessarily something that we felt as much involved with as Roger did.
There's a curious thing here, which is that, in fact, the relationship with the audience seems to have, certainly since the wall, improved immeasurably anyway, because the particular incident that is always cited as the sort of kick-off for the wall was a show, I think, in Canada, where Roger was infuriated by the audience refusing to listen to what was being sung. As soon as the volume dropped below maximum, everyone started hooting and hollering and screaming. But funnily enough, in the last sort of 10 years or so, audiences have become much more interested in listening anyway. So actually the whole system has changed round, and now I think, it's partly the purpose of having all these effects is to concentrate people's attention on the stage and what's going on, but it does seem to work quite well. I don't think that is now really a problem.
No, I think evidence of that is what we talked about before, that they sing along. We wish you were here and in quite force. All right, the new album Pulse is going to be in your stores blinking at you on June the 6th, and from it, this is Hey You on the world premiere. Dave Gilmour and Nick Mason, I must ask you, before you leave, do you plan to record and tour as Pink Floyd in the future? Is that in the cards?
Well, we haven't really thought about it, to be honest with you. We're getting over this one. We shall see. And we have talked about one or two minor plans for the future, but we haven't really developed them at all. I have no idea.
I'm sorry, Nick.
Well, it's just, it was never... I think if we'd known this was going to be the farewell tour, we'd probably have said so.
Okay. It's not the intention.
Yeah. Well, I guess it takes quite some time to recover from that, doesn't it?
About 5 years, yeah.
Well, I want to congratulate you on all the success. It's well-deserved. And thank you for spending the last 2 hours with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. The world premiere broadcast of Pink Floyd's Pulse was engineered by Matt Roberts with additional production by Steve Nelson. Tonight's show was brought to you by 1-800-COLLECT, the way to call Collect. Dial it instead of 0. Special thanks to Steve O'Rourke of MCA Productions and to Paul Rappaport of Columbia Records.